Jamie Lambert's hands shook as he stood outside the paper garden, rain hammering against his expensive coat. Through the fogged window, he could see her, Sophia Martinez, laughing with a customer, her dark hair tied back the way it always was when she worked. 6 years. 6 years since he'd last heard that laugh, and now his heart was pounding so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. He pushed the door open. The bell chimed, that same brass bell that used to hang in their apartment. Sophia had insisted on buying it at a flea market, said every entrance should be celebrated. He'd called it sentimental nonsense. God, he'd been such a fool. Sophia turned. The book in her hands slipped, hitting the floor with a thud that echoed through the small bookstore. Her face went pale, then flushed red. Jamie. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation, a wound reopened, a ghost made flesh. Hello, Soph, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The elderly customer glanced between them, grabbed her purchase, and hurried out. 2 college students sitting in the cafe corner exchanged looks and quickly followed. Within minutes, the store emptied, leaving just the 2 of them and 6 years of silence. It's been 6 years, Sophia said, her voice steady but her hands gripping the counter so hard her knuckles went white. 6 years, for months, and 11 days, Jamie replied. She laughed, bitter and sharp. Of course you counted. You always were good with numbers. Just not with people. She moved behind the counter, putting a physical barrier between them. What are you doing here, Jamie? Did your assistant finally teach you how to show up in person, or did you accidentally GPS yourself to the wrong address? The words cut deep, but he deserved every slice. I deserve that. You deserved a lot more than that, she shot back. You deserve the fury I felt when your lawyer delivered the divorce papers while I was teaching a class full of students. You deserve the year I spent crying myself to sleep. You deserve the shame I felt when people asked me why my husband couldn't even be bothered to sign his own damn papers. Jamie flinched with each sentence. You're right. About all of it. Don't do that, Sophia said, her voice rising. Don't come in here and agree with me like you're some enlightened man who's learned his lesson. Where were you when I needed you? Where were you when I begged you to come to counseling? Where were you when I told you I was drowning and all you said was, I have a meeting? I was building an empire I thought would make you proud, Jamie said quietly. I never wanted an empire. Sophia's voice cracked. I wanted a husband who came home for dinner. I wanted someone who remembered our anniversary. I wanted you, Jamie, not your money, not your success, just you. The rain outside intensified, battering the windows like it was trying to break in. Jamie took a step closer. Can we sit? Please? I didn't come here to fight. Then why did you come? Because I've been in therapy for 2 years, and my therapist asked me a question I couldn't answer. She asked, who do you owe the truth to? Your name was the first one that came to mind. Actually, it was the only one. Sophia studied him, really looked at him for the first time. He'd aged. There were lines around his eyes that weren't there before, gray threading through his dark hair. He looked tired, bone-deep exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. Fine, she said finally. We can sit. But I'm making tea, and you're going to wait. She moved to the small cafe area, her hands working on autopilot, filling the kettle, pulling out 2 mismatched mugs. Jamie noticed she still remembered how he took his tea, chamomile with honey, no milk. The realization made his throat tight. They sat across from each other at a small wooden table scarred with coffee rings and pencil marks. Sophia wrapped her hands around her mug like she needed its warmth, even though the bookstore was well heated. Talk, she said. Jamie pulled out a worn envelope from his jacket pocket. I've been writing to you. For 3 years. I never sent them because I'm a coward, but I've written 47 letters. He placed the envelope between them. This is the latest one. I don't want to read it, Sophia said, but she didn't push it away. Then let me read it to you, Jamie said. His hands trembled as he opened it, and this time Sophia noticed. Are you okay? The question came out before she could stop it, years of caring bleeding through her anger. No, he said simply, but I'll get to that. He unfolded the letter, his voice unsteady as he began. Dear Sophia, today I walked past a bookstore in Seattle. The owner was reading to a child, and I thought of you. I thought of the children we never had because I was always too busy. I thought of how you used to read me poetry on Sunday mornings, how you traced the words on my skin when you thought I was sleeping. I can recite every poem you ever shared with me. Isn't it cruel that I remember them now, when you're not here to hear me? Sophia's eyes filled with tears. She blinked rapidly, trying to will them away, but they fell anyway, hot trails down her cheeks. Jamie continued, his voice breaking. I thought success would fill the emptiness inside me. It didn't. It just made the hole bigger, so big that I could fit my entire fortune into it, and still have room for more regret. I'm writing this from my penthouse apartment. It has floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the entire city. It's beautiful and cold, and so incredibly lonely. I would trade every window, every view, every dollar for one more Sunday morning with you. He folded the letter carefully and slid it across the table. Sophia picked it up with shaking fingers, pressed it against her chest. Why now, Jamie? Why after 6 years of nothing? Because 6 months ago, I was diagnosed with early-onset Parkinson's disease, he said, and the words hung in the air like smoke. The trembling you noticed, it's not nervousness. It's symptoms. My neurologist says I have 10 to 15 years before significant decline. I've already sold most of my shares in the company. I stepped down as CEO 3 months ago. Sophia's face went white. Jamie, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. How could you? I made sure you wouldn't. I made sure no one would. He looked down at his shaking hands. I spent 15 years building something I thought mattered. Now I have maybe 15 good years left, and I realized I wasted the first half of my life running from the best thing that ever happened to me. Don't, Sophia whispered. Don't romanticize what we had. It wasn't good at the end. It was painful and broken, and I was so incredibly lonely. I know, Jamie said. That's why I'm not here asking for another chance. I'm here to give you something. He pulled out another envelope, this one official-looking with a law firm's letterhead. Sophia opened it slowly, her eyes scanning the documents inside. Her hands started shaking. What is this? It's the paperwork for the Sophia Martinez Literary Foundation. $5 million endowment. It provides grants to independent bookstores, libraries in underserved communities, literacy programs. The first recipient has already been chosen. He paused. It's the paper garden. Sophia stood up so fast her chair fell backward. You can't do this. You can't just throw money at me and think it fixes anything. I'm not trying to fix anything, Jamie said, standing too. I'm trying to do one thing right. You taught me that real legacy isn't what you build, it's who you build up. This foundation will outlive both of us. It'll help thousands of people find the same joy in books that you tried to share with me when I was too blind to see it. Stop it. Sophia's voice broke completely. Stop being so damn noble. You don't get to come in here dying and generous and make me the villain for still being angry. You're not the villain, sophomore. You never were. I was. I am. 3 weeks later, the paper garden was packed for open mic night. Sophia stood at the microphone, a piece of paper trembling in her hands. She'd written and rewritten this poem a dozen times, but standing here now, surrounded by faces she knew and loved, she felt ready. This is called forgiveness, she began, her voice steady. Forgiveness is not a door that closes, nor a bridge you burn to ash. It is a window you open to let the old ghosts out and the morning light in. It is not forgetting. It is not condoning. It is not weakness. It is the strength to say, I will not let your mistakes define my future. It is the courage to say, I am more than what you made me feel. It is the freedom to say, I release you, and in doing so, I release myself. The room erupted in applause. Sophia smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years feeling light. As she stepped off the small stage, she saw him. Jamie, in the back row, wearing a simple sweater and jeans, clapping with tears in his eyes. Their gazes met across the crowded room, and she nodded. He nodded back. It wasn't forgiveness earned through grand gestures. It was two people acknowledging that they'd both survived, both grown, both found ways to keep living. After the event, as people filtered out, David found her, wrapped his arms around her waist. That was beautiful, he said, kissing her temple. Thank you for being patient with me, she said, turning in his arms to face him. Always, he replied, and she believed him. Outside, Jamie walked along the riverside, hands in his pockets, the tremor less noticeable in the cool evening air. He pulled out his phone and texted his therapist. I did it. I told her the truth. She forgave me. I don't know what happens next, but for the first time in 6 years, I feel like I can breathe. The response came quickly. That's called healing, Jamie. Keep going. He looked up at the stars barely visible through the light pollution. thought about the 15 years he might have left, and decided he wouldn't waste another day. Tomorrow, he'd go back to the youth center where he'd started volunteering. Tomorrow, he'd call his parents who he'd neglected for a decade. Tomorrow, he'd keep trying to become the man Sophia always believed he could be, even when he didn't believe it himself. Some stories don't end with people getting back together. Some stories end with people finally becoming whole enough to move forward. And sometimes, that's the most powerful ending of all. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about the people you've lost or the forgiveness you still need to find, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing for more stories that explore the messy, beautiful complexity of being human. Drop a comment below about a time you had to choose between holding on to anger or finding peace. Your story matters,